All right, so you want to speak English better.
Yeah. Like more confidently, really be able to have a conversation.
Exactly. Well, that's what we're diving into today. A guide all about speaking English
Mm.
effectively.
And it's for everyone, like no matter what level you're at. Like even if you're just starting out or
Or even if you've been speaking English for a while, but you still get those
those moments where you're like, I wish I could just say this better, or I wish I knew more words, or
yeah, totally. And
ah,
and this guide, it's not just about like the traditional, grammar rules and stuff.
right. It actually gives you like really practical advice and exercises you can do to just feel more comfortable.
Yeah, more comfortable like actually using the language, not just like, you know, knowing it in theory.
Totally. And one of the first things it talks about is like this idea of self-talk, you
Oh,
know?
yeah. I know. I do this all the time. Like sometimes I just stand in front of the mirror and like
Yeah, yeah.
practice saying things out
Yeah,
loud.
exactly. But the guide is saying like start small, Like
Yeah.
don't try to like give a whole speech or anything. Just like practice simple greetings.
Like, hello and how are you? That kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Just get used to like hearing yourself speaking English.
Yeah. And I think that can really help with like,
With confidence.
exactly. Yeah. Like the
Right.
more you hear yourself doing it, the less scary it becomes.
Totally. And that actually ties into the guide's advice about setting realistic goals too.
Oh, yeah. Like not trying to do too much at once.
Yeah. Just focus on those small steps.
Yeah.
Like mastering a few phrases, then building from there.
Okay. So we've got the confidence building part down.
Yeah.
What about like actually learning new words?
Well, the guide suggests trying to learn like 5 to 10 new words every day.
Okay. 5 to 10. So like today I learned the word excited.
Perfect. So now, like, think about how you would use excited in a sentence.
Ooh. Okay. I am excited about this new guide.
There you go. So you're already using it, and the guide talks about, like, this difference between, like,
Mm.
active and passive vocabulary.
Oh, what's that?
So passive vocabulary is like words you understand when you see them or hear them, but you don't really use them yourself.
Gotcha.
But active vocabulary are the words you can just pull out, like effortlessly, like when you're speaking.
So the goal is to get more words into that active vocabulary.
Exactly. And that's where like creating your own sentences and really like using the words comes in.
Yeah, that makes sense. And are there any like tools or anything that the guide recommends for learning vocabulary?
Yeah. Well, like the classic flashcards, those are always helpful.
Yeah.
But there are also like a bunch of apps out there now like Quizlet and Duolingo.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of those.
Yeah. They can be really good for like drilling vocabulary and stuff.
Awesome. Okay, so we've covered confidence and vocabulary now.
Yeah.
How about pronunciation? I remember when I was first learning English,
Yeah.
some sounds were just so hard to get right.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. And the guide talks about this like one of the biggest challenges. But it gives some really good advice. Like it says, like, think about it like learning a song.
Oh, like a song.
Yeah, you hear a song on the radio, you like it, so you start singing along, and eventually, all the words.
You can just like belt it out.
Exactly. And language is kind of similar, like you have to listen and imitate.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, so the guide recommends like watching English movies and TV shows,
Oh, yeah.
listening to podcasts, audiobooks, things like that.
Yeah. Just surround yourself with the sounds of the language.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually used to do this thing where I would watch movies and like try to imitate the actors, like their accents, their intonation, everything.
Ooh, that's a good idea. I might try that.
Yeah, it's fun. And speaking of tools, the guide mentions some online pronunciation tools too.
Like what?
Like there's this website called Forvo, Forvo,
Okay.
and you can basically type in any word and hear how native speakers pronounce it.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's super helpful. And, it all ties back to that listen and imitate idea.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got like the main ingredients now, right? Confidence,
Yeah.
vocabulary, pronunciation.
Yeah, we're building a delicious English-speaking cake here.
Uh-huh. I love it.
Great.
So now what? Like, how do we actually put it all together?
Well, that's where practice comes in, and the guide really emphasizes, like, real-world practice.
So like not just practicing by ourselves in our rooms.
Right, like actually going out and using the language.
Oh gosh, that sounds scary.
Haha, I know it can be intimidating, but it's like the best way to improve.
Okay, so what kind of real world practice does the guide recommend?
Well, one thing is joining English-speaking groups.
Oh yeah.
Like you can find them online or even like in your local community.
Yeah. I bet there were like meetups and stuff.
Exactly. And it's a great way to like meet people who are also learning English.
Yeah, and like practice together and not feel so alone.
Exactly. And then another thing the guide talks about is role playing.
Ooh, role playing.
Yeah.
Like acting?
Kind of, yeah. It's like you create a scenario, like let's say you're at a restaurant
Okay, I'm at a restaurant.
and you have to order food in English.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I would like to order the,
Exactly. Or like asking for directions or, anything like that.
Oh, so you just practice those everyday conversations?
Yeah. And it might feel silly at first, but it's so helpful.
Yeah, because then when you're in the actual situation,
You'll be more prepared.
yeah,
Okay.
that makes sense. Now, what about grammar? I have to admit, that was always my least favorite part of language learning.
Oh, I hear you. But the guide breaks it down pretty well. Like, it focuses on mastering the basics first.
Like what kind of basics?
Like the main tenses, like present, past, future.
Okay.
And then like simple sentence structures, subject, verb, object.
Right.
Like start simple and then build from there.
So don't jump into like super complicated grammar rules right away.
Exactly. And honestly, like a lot of grammar you just kind of pick up through practice.
Oh.
Yeah. Like the more you read, the more you listen, you start to internalize those rules even without consciously studying them.
Wow, that's encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of reading and listening, the guide talks a lot about the importance of input, right?
Yes. Like you have to expose yourself to the language as much as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So like reading is great for vocabulary.
Yeah. Yeah.
You come across new words, you see how they're used in context.
What about listening?
Listening is amazing for pronunciation. Like you start to pick up on those subtle nuances of the language.
The rhythm, the intonation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there are so many great resources out there now, like podcasts, audiobooks.
Oh, yeah. I love podcasts.
Me too. And you can find podcasts on literally any topic you're interested in.
Yeah. So it's like you're learning and be entertained at the same time.
Exactly. And then for reading, start with whatever you enjoy. Like it could be children's books or like simple news articles, and then work your way up to more challenging material.
Okay, so input is key. And what about output?
Mm-hmm.
Like actually producing language ourselves?
Well, the guide has some great tips for that too. Like it recommends writing every day.
Oh, like journaling?
Yeah, exactly. Just like write about your day, your thoughts, your ideas, anything.
And why is that helpful?
It forces you to like put those grammar rules and vocabulary into practice,
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the guy also emphasizes the importance of getting feedback on your writing.
Oh, so like having someone check it for mistakes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a friend, a teacher, or you can even use online grammar tools.
Oh, that's a good idea. I didn't know about those.
Yeah, there are some really good ones out there.
Awesome. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Confidence, vocabulary, pronunciation, practice, input, output.
We've baked a pretty good English-speaking cake.
Uh-huh. It smells delicious.
Uh-huh.
But I guess the real question is, like, how do we keep it going? How do we stay motivated and actually make progress?
Well, the guide talks about the importance of consistency, like making English a part of your daily routine.
Okay, so like setting aside some time each day to practice.
Exactly. Like even just 30 minutes a day can make a huge difference.
30 minutes, that's doable.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be super intense. Like one day they could watch a TV show.
And the next day you could practice some vocabulary.
Yeah. Mix it up, keep it fun.
And what about motivation? Like, how do we stay motivated when it feels hard?
Well, the guide talks about like celebrating those small victories,
Oh, yeah. Like when you finally master that one grammar rule that's been tripping you up.
Exactly. Or when you can hold a conversation without feeling super nervous,
Yeah, those are great moments.
Yeah. So like acknowledge those wins. Don't just focus on what you haven't achieved yet.
Okay, celebrate the small wins. Got it. And, before we wrap up, I just wanted to mention that sample dialogue in the guide.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
It's cool to see like how all these elements we've talked about actually come together in a real conversation.
Yeah, it's like a little mini English-speaking masterpiece.
Uh-huh. So there you have it, folks. Our deep dive into this guide on speaking English effectively.
It's all about building confidence, expanding your vocabulary, mastering pronunciation, and practicing consistently.
Celebrating those small wins along the way.
Now, if you want to start seeing real results, I challenge you to pick one thing from this deep dive that resonated with you.
Yeah.
And actually do it today, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Just take that first step.
Yeah. And see where it leads you.
You might be surprised at how much progress you can make.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
See you next time.